Right, you are. I think we're ready. I think we're ready. Oh, feedback. 1 second. Testing. Where's that coming from? 1 second. Testing 1, 2. That'll do. Right. Oh, there we go. Right, welcome to my stream. Today we're streaming a little bit about British politics. We're going to go into the Labour Party in Keir Starmer. Also having a look at other events around the world as well. We're going to take it nice and easy because this is only my third stream I've ever done. I prefer to make this more of a conversational stroke researching stream. So we'll be looking in to the Labour Party and maybe float around at Qatar, maybe a little bit later. But I'll be taking notes, as you can see on my screen over here. I like to watch a few videos and take notes and come up with solutions to things. So let's dive right in. I'll play the music for a bit just while I get a few of my bits and pieces just organized. Let's get this camera sorted. Good old red. Tastes great. Alright, I've got a new setup, so if I click the wrong button and my music goes out, do let me know. But you're free to chat. I'm live on Twitch and Rumble, and I think YouTube. I'll see if I can push 3 streams today. If it does get laggy, do let me know. Sometimes... Oh, stats. There we go. 50 frames per second. Yeah, baby. That's what that graphics card I spent all that money for. Looking at myself at 50 frames per second. All right. I saved a few. This is the wrong one. Let's go back to the other one. I saved a few videos today. I'm specifically looking at the UK at the moment. I've got a playlist here. I divide things into interesting... Oh, we've got Trump money, Medicaid, and multiculturalism, grooming gangs, and Labour turning right. Right, let's start with this. Right, we can look at a little bit of a Sargon of Akkad. Some people may be a fan of his, some people may loathe him, but he does an interesting take on Keir Starmer's speech, which I want to take a few notes about. So do join in. Keir Starmer. Now, Keir Starmer, if anyone knows, is the UK's Prime Minister. And he's taken a bit of a switcheroony. I mean, because of the rise of Nigel Farage in this country, mainly on the back of immigration and free speech, Keir Starmer has had to take a strong stance and changed his tone on his views on immigration. So before, I think back in 2015, he was harping on about UK's for everybody. Everyone's welcome to come on the shores and be a part of society. And now, thanks to Nigel Farage, he's now going to have to start doing something incredibly poignant and basically address the problem of mass immigration into the UK, which has rattled the left wing in our country because he's had to literally do something to stop Farage, who is considered on the right or the far right, to prevent him coming to power. But is it going to be enough? But someone who knows a little bit more about this than I do is a YouTuber called Sargon of Akkad, someone who's I've followed for a while, back when I was on the right. And it's interesting to listen to his takes. So
think I'm live. Just waiting for it all to
Hopefully you can hear.
finish doing whatever it does on the back end, and then we will be ready to discuss the most remarkable. Hello. I can hear myself. Just waiting for it. Most remarkable. Finish doing whatever it does on the back end. Shut up.
Sort it out, Sargon.
Shut up, me. Yeah, the most remarkable change in British politics that I've seen in quite some time. This is incredible. Frankly, we'll let people find the stream first, because of course YouTube isn't telling everyone it's here. But hello, chat. Hope you're doing very well.
So Karma made a YouTube on his position regarding.
I just got back from rock climbing. There's a big, there's a really long climbing wall that's like slanted at like 45 degrees, called the Beast.
We'll put this as
do it today, so I'm quite pleased with myself.
the key points.
I'm aching. So, but yeah, so remarkable things are happening in British politics at the moment, and they are having a meltdown, an absolute meltdown over this, because what has happened signals an absolute and categoric paradigm shift with the way that immigration was treated for the last at least 25 years in Britain. And a lot of people are going to be left kind of holding the bag on this, demanding that unlimited mass immigration is an unalloyed, unmitigated good. And Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and Labour Party leader, has decided, no, actually it's been bad for us. In fact, in his words, quote unquote, unmitigated disaster. That is shocking language. Absolutely shocking. So this is a map of the census from 2021, as you can see, done by ethnicity. The darker the blue, the more ethnically homogenous and English the area is, and Welsh in this case. And the lighter the blue to sort of greeny yellow.
Wish this had spell check, and there's a paint.
About a third English. Birmingham.
I need to get Microsoft Office.
Leicester, 30% English. Luton, 30% English, etc. etc. Peterborough, 60% English. Like
the local authority districts.
Pretty catastrophic. And the Boris wave really nailed this on the head for people. So town centres all across the country just became instantly diversified, even if you weren't living in one of the areas that has been hit like a bomb. And this has been something that people have said over and over and over that they don't want since the 1960s, when immigration first started really becoming a feature of British life. People didn't want this. And every time they've had the opportunity to vote when the issue has been salient, they have voted against.
This used to be a prominent opinion during the Boris era, or the Boris wave.
To tens of thousands. When it came to Theresa May, promised to get it down to the tens of thousands. Came to Boris Johnson, promised to get it down to the tens of thousands, and backstabbed us in the process. Brexit itself, the first main issue was sovereignty, but the second was immigration. And of course, we are now stuck with Keir Starmer, who seems to have finally gotten the message through his thick head that we actually don't want to lose the entire country and hand it away to foreigners. And this is actually bad. And so Keir Starmer came out and gave this speech 2 days ago. And I've left this for 2 days just to let the dust settle, let the fallout come down, because holy crap are they mad about this. And you know what? If they're mad, then we're winning. Because if they weren't angry, then we wouldn't be doing anything.
I'm going to look at what
we're losing something.
James O'Brien thinks about this afterwards, because it's interesting to see how they think of Keir Starmer after this speech.
Yeah, Cameron, I've been enjoying the reaction too. I mean, they have just been furious, absolutely furious. So the highlights are, again, Starmer calling mass immigration a Tory betrayal, totally true. An open borders experiment, which he had called it previously, actually. So this isn't the first time that he's mentioned something like this. But an open borders experiment that's being run in the country. True, but the Labour Party did that as well.
Keir on Twitter.
And he called it, again, the unmitigated disaster, which, I mean, yes, obviously it's been an unmitigated disaster. I think all the rape gangs would also imply that it's been an unmitigated disaster. And also, during the Q&A at the end of this, one journalist stands up and bravely toes what was, up until this point, the reliable Labour Party line.
You know what? This is an actual embarrassment for Keir Starmer, because because of his polling is so low at the moment in the UK. Like Keir Starmer has actually he's cut away the kind of, as he says, as well, Sargon would put, the wokies out of the Labour Party, and he's ostracized the right, which means his kind of base now is like centrist, like confused centrist, because Labour seems to be more on the right at the moment than the actual Conservative Party. Now, the Conservative Party is a dead weight party at the moment, with literally some of the worst polling, I think, in the history of the Conservative Party. Labour has no audience; like they have no real voter base. So, I can imagine now he's trying to reconstruct Labour to appeal to not only the right but also make the majority of the centre ground as well. And he's not going to do anything about immigration. I'm pretty sure this is just going to be a big front to moving forward, because I still think Tony Blair is still whispering in his ear in the background, like the Dark Lord, as he's referred to, from Star Wars.
But immigrants make us richer. Immigrants are good for the economy. And Keir Starmer just stops him flat and says, no, they're not. We've had unbelievable amounts of immigration for 4 years and zero economic growth. You're
Right, let me write that down. He said, Keir mentions that immigration. Oh, what is Star? He's going to play it, but I need to hear it again.
Point the reliable Labour Party line. But immigrants make us richer. Immigrants are good for the economy. And Keir Starmer just stops him flat and says, no, they're not. We've had unbelievable amounts of immigration for 4 years and zero economic growth. You're wrong, my friend. It's just like, oh, wow. So Keir Starmer, it is not overstating the fact to say, has adopted the far-right position and narrative on immigration. Overnight.
He has.
Like
He
said,
has
there have
adopted
been
the far right
previous times where
position.
he
Oh
has
my
actually
goodness.
mentioned this, but
Because now Farage doesn't have anything to run on. What's Farage going to run on now? He's going to say, well, Keir Starmer is not going to do absolutely anything about it, is he? Let old Farage take the reins. Because if Keir Starmer goes harder than Farage on immigration, and by that I mean sending people back, which I don't think Labour's going to do, and I don't think Farage wants to do either. This is going to be a fight of who can be the most radical when it comes to immigration policy.
Anything very hard. And so the government has written a white paper which they think will reduce immigration by hundreds of thousands a year, meaning the net will be something like 500,000 rather than nearly 1 million maybe. And again, this is all very unlikely, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the point is, Keir Starmer is saying, no, immigration, bad. And that's what everyone heard from this. And he's right. This is the far-right position. Now, of course, he did his best. Well, I'm not saying diversity is bad or anything like that. It's just the scale of immigration into Britain is destroying us, and it's true. And so you might think, okay, well, he's come out and just made this statement. That will be the end of it. It could be a lie to bring digital ID. We'll think about that in a bit. But the point being, he could have just left it at that and then swept it under the rug, and the powers that be, the mainstream media, the other politicians.
He's not saying diversity is bad, neither am I. It's just the scale of unmitigated immigration to the UK has left.
But he didn't do this.
House prices and strains onto the NHS and also
mass immigration.
social cohesion.
That the direction of travel for the Labour government now is against mass immigration. And
so that's it. So Labour's position now is in effect anti-immigration. How much do you have to fail as a right-wing party that the Labour Party now has to come in and clear up your messes and take on the radical positions? Labour's position now is an anti-animation, anti-immigration party. Oh my goodness.
With a series of posts on Twitter, which honestly could have come out of any right-winger's mouth. If you want to live in the UK, you should speak English. That's common sense. So we're raising English language
testing 1
requirements
2
across every immigration route. My God, that pissed them all off. And I mean, Viva Fry here pointing out, a guy got a... If you want to live in the UK, you should speak English.
He mentions that mass immigration, uh, um, people coming to the UK, it's now going to be an essential for them to speak English. He mentions that immigrants to the UK will have to speak English as a prerequisite. I don't know what that means immediately. I'm going to have to read this document of his. English as a necessity. Just remember, I don't think he's talking about people coming over like on visas, because the majority of immigration will come from people that are students and have dependents, or people who come here legally anyway. So I need to work out whether he's talking about people who are coming in, undocumented people coming in and outstaying their welcome, or people who are actually coming here for business or leisure.
That's common
Well,
sense.
business
So
essentially.
we're raising English language requirements across every immigration route. My God,
Every immigration
that
route.
pissed them all off. And I mean, we're right here pointing out a guy got arrested for saying this. Like, people should speak English in England. A guy got arrested for this, and Keir Starmer is saying, no, you know what? The new regime is now that here in England, speak English, you foreigners.
Oosh.
They've been spurking out about this for days. Literally days. So does that mean if I go to Wales, I should speak Welsh? Sure, why not? Yeah, I'm totally down for it. What about people who go to Spain and don't speak Spanish? Then the Spanish should kick them out then, shouldn't they? And in fact,
true.
I hope the Spanish do kick them out, so we have a precedent, say, right, not an English speaker, out.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how much, again, until...
I mean, it shouldn't have actually got this far. I mean, goodness gracious me. I mean...
Like, oh, wait.
Now it's just going to be an absolute...
Like,
because the problem is now, if you can take such a... Things like this, like radical changes to immigration policy, it's such a sensitive topic that you've got to approach this so, like sensibly over time to stop, like, people spurging out and thinking the whole country's going against them. Because generally the country isn't against immigrants. It's just the amount of people, which is now... They're going to start thinking that this is going to be an attack on them. What should have happened is you start implementing these rules very slowly over time, so it just makes the natural change of society like more welcoming on one side and brings like immigrants up to the same level as everybody else for social harmony. But just employing this bang straight out the get-go, you know, I can see if you are an immigrant or from a minority background in this country, you're going to feel, you know, pretty victimized, I think.
Farage gets in power and then goes, you know what, I'm joining the WEF and we're going to become global Britain and I'm going to bring in every Indian under the sun. Thanks for voting me into power, lads. That's how these people feel. They feel truly betrayed, truly backstabbed.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Because they were supporting him as the globalist candidate to further swamp this country with foreigners. That's why.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just going to write this in my notes. Many of the far left advocates thought mass immigration was part of the globalist mantra. Yeah, so when you have like global harmony being part of multicultural is our strength, and then blocking mass immigration, eventually you prove that your theory is wrong. And that's going to mean that you're going to totally reset and anger a lot of the people who think, you know, not open borders per se, but a kind of a global homogeny society where we all live as a tapestry of people of different cultures can actually work. It's going to be a massive dent for the Labour Party to continue with that philosophy. And will hinder that.
Why they supported him. That's what they thought he was going to do. And Keir Starmer has turned around and said, no, I've received new programming, presumably from Tony Blair, because where else is it?
Yep, new programming from Tony Blair.
The Starminator can only fulfill my mission. Whatever my program is, I'm going to do it to the maximum degree. Until now, it was universal human rights. And let's be clear, there is plenty and just absolutely tons of speeches that Starmer has given, completely in favour of mass immigration, being like, no, we need to make the case for why swamping England with unlimited impoverished foreigners is a good thing, actually. But no, he's received his software update now, And so the Starminator is just going to start gunning down left-wingers who oppose him on immigration. So, oh, Jesus Christ. You know, so like I said, it's a total betrayal. Complete and total betrayal. Yeah, a National Socialist Prime Minister was not on my bingo card for 2025.
National Socialist
He is
Prime
basically a National
Minister.
Socialist. That is true. I'm not saying he is a Nazi, of course, but I am literally saying
Keir
he is a
Starmer.
socialist, and now he is turning into a nationalist. So, very
Keir
interesting.
Starmer, the National Socialist.
And honestly,
Whoops.
a lot of this is going to be down to the online right hammering the issue of immigration. So if you thought you posting about this on social media didn't matter, I guarantee it did matter. Currently, the mainstream is just, you've got to just enjoy the salt. You really do. Anyway, so he posts things like this. I've already returned over 24,000 people with no right to be here, and I won't stop there. Jesus Christ, the Starminator has his mission. Cleanse these islands. He's actually pulling a Stalin. That's right, Will. He's just like this is a really aggressive tweet, right? Really aggressive. Yeah, 24,000 foreigners I caught on my green and pleasant land, and they didn't have their bloody IDs. They didn't have their papers, so I dealt with them, says Keir Starmer.
And also some of this like rhetoric here, like the Boris wave needs to go back. I mean, that's kind of irresponsible. I mean, some of these people are actually going to be part of our society, and it's going to make a big struggle for them to integrate if you're going to have this kind of attitude of people who are here now and pushing towards wanting to have citizenship are now going to be treated in the same as the ones who've come here illegally, or the ones that want to cheat the system. So you have to be careful with some of the rhetoric.
Sent back from the future to protect England from mass immigration. And then you have this. And this is just Heinlein Starmer rising. Settlement in the UK is a privilege that is earned, not a right.
Well, that's kind of true. I mean, what does this person say? A settlement in the UK is a privilege, or right? Yeah, that's true. Especially if your populace hasn't voted on something and you've come here and you're not striving for British citizenship, then it kind of is a privilege, and it's not a right that's given to you.
Fucking banging here. That I've been saying this for 5 years now, right? I've been saying this for ages, because that is 100% true, right? No foreigner has a right to live here. They do so at our pleasure. It is a privilege we extend to them. And he didn't have to say this, right? He comes out. I mean, he could have just come out and said, "Look, we think the immigration's gone away from us, and we're the government, so we're going to fix this. I promise to come in and fix all these problems." Blah, 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 blah. And he could have given a very wishy-washy.
Yeah, the speech was brutal. I'm going to play the whole thing in a minute, but
instead he went.
I want to listen to his whole speech. Let's find his whole speech. 1 second.
We risk becoming an island of strangers.
Oops. Sky News, everybody.
Forward together.
Welcomed by some Labour MPs, but leaving others deeply uneasy, especially about the language.
It was just a huge disappointment for me to hear that coming from our Prime Minister at this point, because we've had such a ramping up of negative rhetoric around migrants.
I don't think it's the language of Enoch Powell. What he was articulating, it was the fact that our infrastructure is broken, and it is the consequence of high levels of immigration.
The Prime Minister's spokesman was asked about claims from a small number of MPs that his language echoed that in Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech about people feeling like strangers in their own country. Downing Street said they completely rejected that comparison. At a car manufacturer in Crewe, the Home Secretary and the Welfare Secretary putting a different spin on it.
I really agree with the Prime Minister that if you come to this country, you should make a contribution, as many migrants do, and learn the language. There's been huge benefits of migration, but I think many people feel it needs to be controlled and managed.
On Sky News this morning, a senior Conservative welcomed the sentiment.
I think there are certain places in this country.
Dust off the Conservatives and bring him into the newsroom.
Where we are a very divided, segregated society. If you look at the centre of Bradford, for example, 50% of people were not born in the
So
UK.
strange
Look at
hearing
the
this
centre of
conversation now
Almost
in the
50% of
common
people only arrived in the
commonplace, because
UK
this has been
in the
such a
last
heavily
10
muted
years.
topic that having this
We visited
conversation
one
now
of the places
out
you
in the
mentioned,
in the
Luton,
public
where
is just so strange to
40%
hear.
of residents were not born in the UK and found
40%.
plenty of voters in favour of more controls on migration.
The lists for housing and the list for doctors.
Yeah, this is a good point, right? So it's like it's the people that are already here and actually part of society are being affected the most. Like this guy's probably now going to say that there's a big scramble for housing just to get on the ladder, and every single public service is now being it's a challenge to even compete. It's going to be a strain on all the resources.
Longer, and personally, I'm blaming it on country being overloaded.
Our faith and religion are getting pushed to the side, and it's you come.
That's a
here
typical British lady
and
there.
to join,
Everything about
it's
that.
Great.
I think it's a good thing if they can control the amount of people who actually come into the country, because where do you put them? Where do they work? What do they do?
I think perhaps people can learn to get along with one another rather than crack down on immigration.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good point for that, gent. We should learn to start getting along with each other, but it has to go both ways. It's hard to get along with somebody who you don't share any sort of culture with straight from the get-go. There should be at least a starting block that we should all agree on for that to work.
Not just about numbers, but earning the right to live in Britain. What that means is likely to divide opinion. Tamara Cohen, Sky News.
Right, is that all he said?
Keir Starmer, any moment now, is going to start announcing measures which he says will help control the number of immigrants coming into the country to live and to work.
So we're going to go through that door and into...
And then fuck me up the bum.
Where, there we go, there's the podium, and we're expecting the Prime Minister...
Just ascends from a rope.
...in the next couple of minutes. Of course, here in the studio, we're joined by GB News presenter and the Mail's Andrew Pearson, by the Mirror's Kevin Maguire. The slogan, let's keep that podium in shot. And the slogan, securing Britain's future. Andrew, you've just said, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
Uh-oh.
What is it?
Well, it's a nice catch-all, isn't it? I mean, we all want to secure Britain's future. And here is the Prime Minister.
He's about to secure our future.
He's such a hipster.
Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders.
Labour Party, everybody.
On a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy, and our country. Take back control. Everyone knows that slogan. And everyone knows what it meant on immigration. Or at least, that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government...
Now, I'm not here to give the guy a bad time, but all of his facial features are way too close to the centre of his head.
Starting with the
First
people
world problems,
who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million.
It's your mate Tony Blair's partly responsible for
our
this.
Second largest city. That's not control.
Tony Blair and Angela Merkel essentially started this all off back in 1997.
And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told the country, they were doing the opposite. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that
God, it's
voted
the Labour
for
Party
control.
saying this. Jesus. He's wrong, but it shouldn't come to the fact that
the Labour government is shutting
government
down
doing
the lab.
this.
The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders. And let me tell you why.
Go on then.
Because
Whisper
I
it to me,
know
babes.
On a day like today, people who like politics will try to make this all about politics, about this or that strategy, targeting these voters, responding to that party. No. I'm doing this because it is right, because it is fair, and because it is what I believe in.
It'll be really interesting to see if we can get Labour Party's popularity. Labour Party? How do you spell Labour? Labour Party. O-U-R. Labour Party popularity. Let's see if we can get like some rankings. What's it called? Greenpeace.
Let me put it this way. Nations depend on rules, fair rules. Sometimes they're written down,
Politico.
often they're not. But either way, they give shape to our values, guide us towards our rights, of course, but also our responsibilities, the obligations we owe.
There you go. So you can currently see. Oh god, this is interesting. Look at this. Right. So, yeah. So there we go. So we've got essentially Labour Party back in, was it June this year? No. This will be, when's this? This is June 2004. Yeah, so this is last year. So there's been a steady decline for the political parties. Now, to be honest, if you're the leading party, generally you do tend to descend. But that's quite that's 10% by 10% by July, and then it keeps going down to another 10% by like February this year, and now it's like May. Now he's just given this speech, so I want to see. I don't think they've essentially added any more to the polling, but Reform, look at Reform rocket in the polls here. It's leveling out as they as both of them are. So I want to see. Hopefully we can get some more polling data later down the line. But of course, who's it? The Conservatives are blue. The Conservatives are a dead weight party at the moment. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they're going to survive. I mean, hopefully they don't survive. They're an absolute betrayal to the country. I mean, what an absolute 14 years of dead weight the Conservative parties were. Greens, essentially just a socialist party, Watermelon Party, and then you've got Change UK. And UKIP's a dead party as well. UKIP is essentially now Reform. Do carry on, Keir. Sorry for stopping
Now,
you.
in a diverse nation like ours, and I celebrate that, these rules become even more important.
Oops.
Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers,
Yes.
not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people,
Yep.
or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise.
I agree. I mean, I know where he's going with this, but I essentially want to hear Sargon's review on it.
Calling it an unmitigated disaster is just something I'm going to clip at some point, and then just reply to every James O'Brien tweet, basically. Just immigration has been an unmitigated disaster from James O'Brien's hero. Because remember, people like James O'Brien, they've been defending Starmer to the hilt over things like Southport, over the wind fuel, over the tax rises, over just, everything, giving away the Chagos Island, all this sort of ridiculous shit.
Oh yeah, we gave away some of our territory.
Finally, he's done something based on far right, and they're freaking out about it. They don't know what to do. They're like, we're regime apparatchiks, but that's like the total opposite of what the regime does. So what am I supposed to do here? Do I defend Starmer because I'm literally programmed to be a Starmer loyalist, or do I defend what I have been preaching for the last 30 years? And so anyway, Heinlein Starmer is rising, and I mean, okay, I'm open to hearing where this goes, Keir. And then there's this one. I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words. I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels, and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings. Let
me just write that down. So I just want a copy of that. I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. mark my words, I will take back control of the borders. That means cutting immigration, ending the use of asylum hotels, and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings. We will smash the people smuggling gangs, the source. Something dark side.
Blah, blah, blah. Now, I just want to be clear. Keir Starmer is not doing this because he wants to. Keir Starmer is doing this because he has to. I mean, this is a poll of polls from Electoral Calculus, and in some polls, Reform are not doing as spectacularly as they could, but there are other polls where they're in their 30s now, and Keir Starmer is seeing it. And so overall, Reform are leading the pack at 25%, Labour at 23%, Conservatives at 21%. This is dire for the Labour Party, for the current government. I mean, there was a poll the other day that had them at 20%, and that poll had Conservatives at 16%. Right? This is not good. I mean, probability of being the largest party at the next election, and that is another 4 years away, more than.
Yeah.
Reform.
Anything could happen in 4 years. I mean, the Labour Party could essentially take the Conservative spot as being the representing the opinion of the people on the centre, and that would mean he'll get like about 55% rise in the polls, like approval rating.
50% chance. This is probably only going to get stronger, and so clearly, some clever Dark Lord has just gone to Keir Starmer and sat him down and gone, listen,
that Dark Lord,
you're going to lose, you can destroy
something,
the party for
something
generation
dark
if
side.
you don't just stop immigration, because that's what that's the number one issue and the cause of all of the problems of the country. And so Keir Starmer has just come out and gone, you know what, yeah, it's a privilege, not a right, and privileges can be rescinded. Anything that was done by fiat can be withdrawn by fiat. If we decided to issue you a passport, we could just refuse that, is what is implied in this. And man, people are furious. Now, the most important part of Keir's speech that was fixated on by the left in particular was that he used a certain turn of phrase. He said, "We risk becoming an island of strangers." Now,
that's from Enoch Powell's River of Blood speech, where I think if you listen to it, he doesn't use strangers in the same. The word strangers has a very different meaning. Back in the was it the 40s or the 50s when he said that? I think it had nothing to do with. It has a less of a strength to the word as in foreigner. I think it just means just noticeable differences rather than not knowing someone by their first name or knowing someone by how they look.
Interesting language, because stranger.
Oh, he's going to talk about
categoric language. Stranger is relational language. It describes one person's relationship with another person. Stranger means the absence of a relationship.
Let me just write that down. You're not part of them.
They do not know one another. There is nothing linking them together. And so they are not familiar or friendly or can be friendly if they don't know each other. And this is true. I mean, if anything, I would suggest that actually we're already the island of strangers, as people were pointing out. I mean, just what are these people doing here, man? Is this GDP growth? Is this what Keir Starmer's talking about? Unmitigated disaster that we've become the island of strangers. I mean, this is in Birmingham, which again 40% English, so you can see exactly the issue here, right? And Callum has got a great little selection here of them 10 Downing Street and the UK Prime Minister just posting this nonsense, just this foreign nonsense that they really should never have posted.
Foreign nonsense,
And
Jesus Christ.
I mean, look, what is this? What is this nonsense? Let's go back to that one, actually, right? What good times mean
Galapagos
gold gappers
and Gubshub.
Fuck off.
That's what I say in my family. That's exactly what the term we use. When the good times means Galapagos and Gubshub, And then my grandma just looks at me and is like, that's right. And then we have crystal meth together.
Honestly, this is just gibberish. Like, I feel like some ancient Greek going, all right, the barbarians actually literally go ba 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 ba. Right? That's literally why we call them barbarians. The Golgappers and the Gupshup, eh? Fuck off. I've had it. I've absolutely had it with this colonization bollocks, right? Not happy with it at all.
Do you think it's a form of colonization where another person's culture is being like seen like more explicitly across the country? Because I think people have every right to like post stuff like this. It's not that intrusive. So, you know, if I was part of Mormonism and I wanted to put a Mormon poster up, then kind of the same thing, just because it's not in English or whatever
Like, yeah,
gupshup means.
We're not going to have it. Well, suddenly, Keir Starmer didn't mention this person, but suddenly the left rushed out and they were like, strangers? What, like when Enoch Powell said we're becoming strangers on our own land or something to that effect, and Keir Starmer hasn't walked this back yet. So Keir Starmer is basically like, yeah, did I fucking stutter? Let's watch some clips, shall we?
Starmer's speech about people being foreigners or unwelcome in their own land and so on is straight out of the Enoch Powell playbook. Well, I represent the neighbouring constituency too.
Yeah, this is going to piss off Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is generally all for multiculturalism and open borders. He's going to be absolutely mortified about this.
Broadly similar, multicultural, multilingual. Basically, people generally get along quite well together. What's the message that's been given to the people who've come to this country, work in health, work in education, work in transport, work in care particularly?
Go home. That's the message that Keir Starmer is giving them. That's what he means. Go home. He's saying this is an island of strangers now. You're not really welcome. And honestly, the fear, the rabid fear of Enoch Powell. Now, Jeremy Corbyn is pretty much the most calm person on that. This is from Good Morning Britain. Look at their faces. Look at the fucking outrage on their faces. They cannot take this.
Now, why is that phrase so inflammatory to some people?
Because Enoch Powell, the racist Tory in the late 60s,
1968.
His infamous Rivers of Blood speech talked about people feeling like strangers in their country. He meant white people strangers.
Oh no, Enoch Powell was like, the British people will feel like strangers in their own country if their country is basically completely colonized by foreigners. It's like, yeah, we absolutely will feel that way, and I'm not sure that's a good thing, actually. I mean, during the era of decolonization, when we were leaving their countries, does that mean they all have to come to our country? Does that mean that we have to have what we are not inflicting on them inflicted on us? No, it's not fair to have done this to us and to our children and future descendants who will have to deal with, what was it Joe Biden called it? An urban jungle or something like that? Is it like, it is not fair to have done this. And
That's a good point. Fairness. If fairness comes into the equation, is it fair for this to happen? Would it be fair if people voted for it? But it's certainly not fair on the next generation. You can make it fair. I mean, this isn't a big issue when you can swing it back and undo some of the issues it's caused. You can essentially bring people up to scratch on your culture. And make it less aggressive, less offensive. I mean, there's no harm in it being. It's going to take a long time for a lot of this to be redone, and having people. I don't know. The issue is, it's like you have like colonies of people that don't want to integrate, and I think that's the main issue. I think it's mainly to do with that, and it's not what like people's culture per se. It's more to do with the fact that there doesn't seem to be any. There's a better word for it, but it's like I loosely use the word interbreeding, where different groups want to coexist together and form marriages and partnerships from different backgrounds. And I think that when that doesn't happen, then you start having colonies of people. And I think that was the main issue of the mass immigration.
I mean, look at the guy's face. Look at the guy's face. Furious.
Strangers in their country. And it's kind of sickening now. Either Either he's got some young, naive person down the street, or he's got somebody who has gone where they should never have tripped. He's off his...
They should never go there, because actually what that implies is that the British have the primary claim to Britain, and all of those people who are here as a privilege and not a right have been taking advantage of them, and all of those people who have been endorsing it and supporting it are bad people for having done so. That's what Keir Starmer's speech has done. And that's why the online left and the media and all of those, you know, the shit libs, the politicians, they're all freaking the fuck out, because Keir Starmer calling this an unmitigated disaster puts them in the wrong and makes them the bad guys. What Keir Starmer has said in this unmitigated disaster speech, The Island of Strangers, is that these people have been stealing the patrimony of the British people from them and profiting from it in the process, and also considering themselves morally superior for doing so. And suddenly Keir Starmer, the guy they all fucking worshipped right up until this point, is like, you know, I think what's been done is a terrible thing, actually. And they're like, holy shit, he's saying that mass immigration is a Tory plot to destroy Britain, and I supported it every step of the way.
Yeah, that's
never go
so
there
now.
or else.
So now the identity for people who identify as Labour are now going to have the title of anti-immigration forcefully put on them. So how that's going to have a lot of infighting moving forward. Since when was Labour the party of anti-immigration? And now that's going to be a part of your mantra. And then if you are a Labour loyalist, you're going to have to parrot that. Literally now, apart from the Greens, every party is going to be anti-immigration. That says something about the state of British politics.
I'm in trouble. My moral reputation is in trouble. I will find myself on the wrong side of history, on the wrong side of a particular and important issue that we have been desperately trying to stamp down to make sure the British public can't object, because otherwise they're evil racists. But Keir Starmer is obviously not a racist, right? He's obviously one of the most progressive people in Britain. He's obviously
certainly is. Ex-communist.
and has been his whole life.
Keir Starmer.
If even he is like, no, this is evil, then they have to admit they've been evil this whole time. Everything they've done up until this point becomes morally not just invalid, but hateful towards the British people.
Oof.
And they are fucking scared of this. They are deeply, deeply worried that Keir Starmer is about to invalidate everything they've tried to achieve and will render them as the villains of history. They are genuinely afraid of this.
Of trips. He's off his moral molehill. Now when he wants to...
See that? He's off his moral molehill. So look, if you don't allow unlimited foreigners to take over your country and occupy places where your grandparents used to live, there is something morally wrong with you. And if that's the paradigm that up until this very moment held, and they were very comfortable and safe in it, then so much better for him. But if Keir Starmer's like, no, I'm the leader of the left in this country and I don't agree with this, I'm the Labour Prime Minister, you've all supported me, and that's wrong, then this literally puts Keir Starmer in UKIP territory morally for these people.
It does.
And so they are just... there's just no bottom to how much screeching we're about to enjoy.
Use the Conservative Party or reform of racism and bigotry, they will be able to turn around and say, what about you? What have you said?
See, this is the whole point, right? It's used as a cudgel against the right. If Keir Starmer admits the damage
that is a great point. The fact that that was a weapon used to the right, calling them like anti-immigration, calling them racist and fascist just because of immigration, they can't now use that. The whole left, the whole Labour left now can't use that as an insult to attack people on the right. So Labour has single-handedly brought up the what's it called, the ground beneath us of what's acceptable to speak in public discourse.
Has done to this country, then they can't have the moral high ground over reform of the Conservatives when they're like, hey...
I'm just going to write that down as a note, beg your pardon. Labour now does not have the moral right to call people racist and fascist for being anti-immigration, as now their party has promised to take steps to fix it themselves.
Hey guys, maybe mass immigration is destroying the country. Be like, no, you racist. They can be like, but what about you, Keir? And that's the concern, right? It doesn't matter how many thousands of girls have been raped. It doesn't matter how many children have been blown up in terrorist attacks. It doesn't matter that young people can't get houses or jobs or feel even like they belong in their own country. None of that matters as long as they get to call the right fucking racists.
That's such a good point. Because moralizing was like one of the biggest things the left exactly had. I mean, talk about the far left, like leftists. Moralizing is essentially part of their mantra. Their hierarchy of purity was like a big part of like the personal is political. So now they can't use that as an insult. So now they're just morally bankrupt, just like the rest of us.
Unacceptable. You are bad people. All of you are bad people. All of you mass immigration advocates are fucking traitors. And the Starminator is going to make sure that you have no choice but to accept what you did was wrong. Because his new programming's in, and he's not a thinking man. He's a doing man. And he's going to be like, well, sorry, there's more to come. 24,000 down.
Jesus.
I'm not even joking. These people are fucking shitting themselves.
He's completely lost any moral ground he had as Prime Minister. It's gone.
No, that's nonsense. That's total nonsense. The reason that the Labour Party is polling so poorly is because what they are doing to the country is immoral. What has been done to the country is immoral, and Keir Starmer is actually trying to get back into the good graces of the British public by saying, you know what, guys, actually, it was an unmitigated disaster. It was something that was done to this country against your will, and it has had nothing but negative consequences. And so these, again, you can see it in them. Look at the guy's face. He's so serious about it. The entire moral paradigm is changing right like that on a dime. It's changing around him. He's like, Jesus Christ, we're in trouble, aren't we? Has Keir Starmer just declared himself the Antichrist? And it's like, yeah, from your position he has. He absolutely has.
Just a sec, I'll be right back. There's somebody at my door. Beg your pardon. 2 seconds.
Why is that?
So that's just, again, Good Morning Britain, daytime television about this, right? Here is BBC Newsnight, and, I mean, you can see from the clip, the use of that language is not in Keir Starmer's interest. Well, I don't know about that. I think if Keir Starmer wants to be a half-popular Prime Minister at some point, it absolutely is in his interest. But look, it's a catastrophic mistake that will divide the left for years to come. As you can see, this is just about political power to them. It's just about browbeating you.
Nick, what reaction are you picking up to
Well,
the
Vic,
measures?
it's interesting that you said to Jackie Smith there, you raised the concerns amongst some in the Labour Party that the Prime Minister was echoing the language of Enoch Powell in his notorious Rivers of Blood speech in 1968. And it's interesting, I caught up a few hours ago with Nigel Farage, and, you know, it's not rocket science that some of that speech was aimed at answering the threat from Reform UK in the local elections. And Nigel Farage thinks it was a big mistake.
So we'll get to Farage's response in a minute, in fact, because Farage's response, in fact, was that Farage's response? Anyway, so yeah, he is right. Nigel Farage did say that he'd gone too far, which is remarkable. You would have thought this would be the time that Nigel Farage would be like, right, brilliant. We can go to the right now. I can keep dragging him to the right. That's where the dialectic is going. This is straight on. But apparently Nigel Farage was like, oh no, I'm going to go to the centre. When Keir Starmer goes to the far right, for some reason, why would you do that? What would be the point of going to the centre when everything's going towards the right? Like, Keir Starmer is literally upping the ante, right? You've been like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a minister for deportation. And Keir Starmer's like, I'm just going to literally fire them all out of a catapult off the cliffs of Dover, mate. You know, you're never going to out anti-migrant me. And Nigel Farage's like, whoa, calm down, bro. Don't invoke Enoch Powell. It's like, what? What? No, now is the time, Nige. Anyway, here's another one from the Good Morning Britain thing. Again, just this. I think this guy is the editor of the Daily Mail or something. And again, Daily Mail meant to be a right-wing paper, but apparently not. Let's carry on.
During the speech, this response to immigration was not political at all. It was purely pragmatic and practical. But of course it was. It was obviously a response to the local elections a couple of weeks ago.
There's no doubt about it. Of course it is. Look, the white paper's been in the pipeline for some time, but I think they probably brought it forward because of the reform response. But I still think I was stunned to hear that phrase from the Prime Minister, because I thought instantly, didn't Enoch Powell say almost the same in that infamous speech?
Almost word for word.
I still think he's tapped in.
It's definitely chosen. He definitely chose that word. He definitely knows who Enoch Powell is.
He's being muscular and strong and tough on him.
Do you reckon Tony Blair had something to do with this? So Tony Blair decided to be the absolute Dark Lord and decided to write speeches for Keir Starmer. Do it. Do it. Call it.
That's what he wants people to think, and it's upset a lot of Labour MPs who couldn't care less, because what he thinks is he might get people who are going to vote for reform coming back to Labour. But actually, there are people who do feel strangers in their own country, in their own towns and communities.
There are not many of them.
Because they've checked, because these
What do you guys think?
Not many of them. Not many of them. 67% of people in this country, when polled, will just say, yeah, too much immigration. That's the problem. Too much immigration.
Do you have the link to that saga?
And the other lefty on the other side, it just... What can he say?
If you think go to the 2021 census, I think 95%.
Are they both Daily Mail writers?
Are
Or
white.
was it just him?
If you look at the number of in primary schools,
The thing is, like, this is where I don't know. Like, is it about being white or is it about being British? Because I don't think the problem is it's a colour thing. I think it's just to do with a culture thing. Although English is an ethnicity, it's also a national identity. So you can be English and be just by your national identity. So I don't think it's a white and brown thing. I think it's just an identity-based thing. What do you guys think?
it's about 64, 65%. This country is changing fast and dramatically, and people are uncomfortable. Some people are uncomfortable.
No. Most people like the change.
Look at this. Look at this. Look what he's. Listen to what he's saying.
No. Most people like the change.
No, Kevin, I'm going to finish my sentence.
Most people like the change.
Keep talking.
Most people like the change. Where? Like no one likes the change. No one agrees. Anyway.
It's like people don't mind, mate. Living in London, but I don't mind the change. I mean, in the sense that I don't mind it, as in the sense of there's people of different colours. I do mind the fact there's no social cohesion. So if you can stretch that out a bit, it's like there is a huge change in the demographics here. But like, as soon as somebody opens their mouth and they speak English and you can relate to them, that's not the issue. It's just the total disconnection with cultures not integrating.
And he had quite a robust little interview on Sky, where he points out that, look, people don't want this, actually. People have not been in favour of this, and they've been saying it for many years, and they've just, there's just so many knives in their back at this point. That, I think that people are voting for reform just literally as a message. Right? I don't think they actually think Farage will fix the immigration problem. Because I don't think Farage will fix the immigration.
I don't think Farage can do anything about it.
You know what? We're just choosing something else just to say fuck you at this point. Just say fuck.
I don't think any of them are going to do it.
Anyway,
Labour might be the only.
Hasan and Begum.
Labour might be the only party who will do something about it, because Labour, from history, does seem to do what they say they're going to do. They seem to generally, apart from the Tories, which are absolutely diabolical and haven't achieved anything in about 14 years, apart from mass censorship and just holding on to their own positions. Labour Party seems to come out and actually do something. Remember the time they brought England to a standstill with a 4-day week? You especially listen to them when they're actually going to say they're going to do something.
I'm proud to represent an East London constituency where diversity is a strength. Well, it's East London. We've been colonised. There are going to be very, very few English people there. Where communities include migrants from all around the world, we must end, not embolden, the hostile environment. And then people were pointing out, well, yeah, literally where you are, it's 29% English, 33% Bangladeshi, and then the other 30% of just foreigners from other places. And it's like, good God, man. No wonder, they get Asparma Begum MP, with their bloody shawl and everything, she, her. I'm not surprised you get that in these constituencies. Anyway, Diane Abbott, well, this was a shameful day in British politics. Will not end well for either the British people or the Labour Party. It's I don't know about that. Anyway, so this was one of my favourites.
Oh, God.
We'll just listen to James O'Brien. Let's just listen.
What a depressing man James O'Brien is.
I don't think that rational conversations about immigration have ever really taken place in this country.
Yeah, because you've done everything in your fucking power to prevent it. Like I called you on Twitter, a porcine bore. You have absolutely gone out of your way to make sure that anyone who wants to have a reasonable conversation about immigration is just a fucking racist. You have been
that's such a great point. It's like it's like the left has made, I'm writing this down, left has made it very difficult to have an adult conversation on the topic of immigration, because they just use ad hominems to shout you down rather than intellectual curiosity. So a lot of this has come back. The reason it's become so this far and unaddressed this far is mainly because the stigmatism that the left has put on people of addressing this topic, and it leaks over to people on the centre and the right. It's like, you can't talk about immigration unless you get labelled X, Y, and Z, which means you just kick the can down the road to the point where the Labour Party is now the only ones addressing it seriously.
Shamed about just smearing people as racist. And it's like, we've just never had a rational conversation about this. It's like, you've done everything to stop it. You've been one of the leading lights, making sure that we can't have a proper conversation about what immigration has done to the country. And now it's got to the point where even your fucking hero, Keir Starmer, is like, yeah, the far right are right about all this. Unmitigated disaster. Open borders experiment. It's not been good for the economy. This has got to stop. And another point as well, he was like, industries have become addicted to immigration. Again, another far right talking point, but obviously true. And it's just like, what does James O'Brien do? He must have woken up that morning and gone, Jesus Christ, this is going to be a tough day. What is this do? Ian Dunt. And he calls himself a liberal extremist, by the way, Ian. Starmer is as bad as those who came before him. Yeah, he's basically the new Nigel Farage. What's a bitter disappointment? Because, of course, up until
basically the new Nigel Farage.
They were cleaning Starmer's nuts all day, every day, echoing the far right in immigration, His moral and intellectual stature has fallen away. And remember, this was all about them saying they are fucking better than you. That's all this is about. Right? Intellectually, Keir Starmer is just correct on all of the points. Right? On all of the substantive points, Keir Starmer is correct. But that means...
Yeah, that's kind of his appeal. Like, he's actually come out, the first person to actually come out and address it from a major party seriously. I mean, hopefully this could be a good turn for Labour. Hopefully they can actually listen to the working man and actually start being what their party represents. It's meant to be the working man's party, as it used to be called, I believe.
His moral stature has fallen away because until this point, everyone thought that Keir Starmer was also a liberal extremist. But it turns out that Keir Starmer is not actually as crazy as the rest of them. Like, well, that's that hero fallen by the wayside. Can't have it. And you get lots of people who are just, I mean, as the former Scottish Labour leader here says, depressed and angry. I'm so sad that Keir Starmer dare acknowledge the genuine problem of immigration in this country, the damage that it has done, and saying, look, it has to stop, because otherwise, and Keir Starmer, and he literally says this in the thing.
Another thing is now, like, a lot of these people now can't virtue signal on the fact they're not in the moral right. Like, you can't now say, oh, you know, we were the party of, you know, compassion and understanding. It's like now that's been taken away from them. So because a lot of people are sheep when it comes to politics, a lot of people in the Labour Party will just do what the Labour Party says. A lot of people who read like the Guardian and things like that will do essentially what the party says. They will tag their moral compass onto a political party. And now that the political party says, well, we're anti-immigration, millions of people are now going to change their opinion on it, and it's going to move that overturned window of what's acceptable on immigration like a huge chunk to the right.
It's not in the interests of Britain to have open border mass immigration. And imagine that is the most nativist thing I've heard out of the mouth of a prime minister, well, in my entire lifetime. Actually, now I think about it, like this Keir Starmer's far-right nativist position on immigration has been absolutely destructive to Britain, and it's not in our interests. And they are like depressed, angry. I preferred the Keir Starmer of 2020. He was in favour of destroying Britain, actually. I was in favour of the ruination of Britain, using mass immigration as a form of like human bioweapon against the British people. And now that he's gone...
You can't use that terminology. Immigrants used as a human bioweapon against the people of Britain. It's hilarious.
He's gone against it. Oh, I'm just so... It's so sad. He's fallen from grace. You know, his intellectual stature's fallen away. It's like, right, so this is all just about the destruction of Britain. And when you don't get it, you're just sad. Oh, it's just so sad. Well, tough shit. I'm so sick of these people. Anyway, Lewis Goodall makes a fair point here. This is ultimately, again, because of Farage and his, as it says, endless ability to reshape the contours of British politics. It's totally true. If it wasn't for Farage rising on the right, even if it's the sort of just right of centre, this wouldn't have happened. And
Nigel Farage, right of centre. What do you guys think?
Keir Starmer wouldn't have taken the far right position, outflanking Nigel Farage on the subject of immigration. I mean, even like conservatives like Ian Dale were like, my God.
I can't believe what I heard. It was a speech that, frankly, Nigel Farage could have given. It's a speech Suella Braverman could have given. It's a speech Robert Jenrick could have given.
Probably has.
I could not believe I was listening to a Labour Prime Minister, making such what I thought were incendiary comments about...
The reason Nigel Farage didn't give a speech like that is he's trying to come across as a moderate. Nigel Farage has to be very careful with immigration because people know where he stands on immigration. Now he's trying to win over like the centre people, so he's going to turn his rhetoric down, which I do believe. Like recently, he's come out and condemned Keir for being too radical in immigration, which is a fucking hilarious move.
See, isn't that interesting? I can't believe the Labour Prime Minister has come out and said something that is pro-British and would actually help the country. Like, I can't believe that a Labour Prime Minister wouldn't just be stabbing the British public in the back. I can't believe that they're not continuing the process of the complete dissolution of this country, of the heritage of the English nation. I'm shocked. I'm shocked, says Ian Dale. Yeah, I'm shocked too, to be honest, Ian. Like, I didn't see it coming either, but I tell you what, I am glad. And I have enjoyed it very much. But anyway, like I said, Farage should be tacking hard to the right on immigration, because with them resurrecting the ghost of Enoch Powell, Farage really should be lining them up to just knock them down, right? Because Enoch Powell was right, and we'll get to this in a minute. And Nigel Farage, back in his youth, had asked Enoch Powell to back UKIP. And Enoch Powell had supported 3 UKIP candidates, but not Farage, which is an interesting thing. But instead, Nigel decides to go to the left.
I caught up
with
the language.
The guy saying that he had him. But yeah, Nigel Farage decided that was too far. So anyway, the question on everyone's lips, as it was in Enoch Powell's day, as it is now, do the public support the far-right position on immigration? Drum roll. What do you think, folks? Of course they fuck.
Do the public support the far-right position on immigration? Oh, YouGov poll says yes. Do you reckon I can steal that? Yes. That's mine. Hang on, where's that gone? Oh, fuck it, I'll get it later.
Fucking do. Of course they do. They've been screaming for generations now, please stop the inflow of foreigners. We don't want this. And shock and surprise, 53% of people agree with Keir Starmer, and that's getting over Keir Starmer's hump of everyone fucking hating him. He is,
look at that as well. Like, while Keir Starmer's warning that the UK is risking becoming an island of strangers without changes to the immigration law has sparked controversy, Britons tend to agree with this sentiment and language. Agree with the sentiment, disagree with the sentiment. In a speech, Keir Starmer said, without fair immigration rules, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. Which of the following comes closest to your view?
In fact, let me get what's Starmer's approval rate. Get that. Just to contextualize this, right? Starmer's favourability.
Oh, where is that? YouGov.
Popularity 22%, disliked by 51%, and that's not a sort of well, I'm not a big fan. That's a I fucking hate him, right? So by more than 2-to-1 factor, everyone fucking hates Keir Starmer, and yet he somehow gets more than half the population on side. So yeah, I agree. It's the correct sentiment coming from an evil man. It's like, yep, that is the case. And so let's quickly move to the question of Enoch Powell. Now, in the description, I have linked today's podcast because Dan, if you go about 45 minutes in, you'll get Dan explaining Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech. Now, you can find it there, but it's worth going through because what Dan is doing is essentially fact-checking it. Because the Rivers of Blood speech was made in 1968. And in 1968, none of this had happened. Right? This is all downstream of 1997.
Right. Yeah. So he gave the speech in a predominantly white country anyway.
In 1968, Britain was something like 98% native. By the 1990s, it was something like 94% native. And then by the 2000s, it starts going downwards at a rapid pace. And Enoch Powell would say things like, well, look, it's conceivable that by the year 2000, Birmingham would be 2/5 immigrant descent. And yeah, I mean, it's conceivable. I mean, at the moment, Birmingham is 2/5 English, which is just the complete inverse of how bad Powell thought it was going to get. He didn't realize how deep the betrayal would go, how much the country would be changed by these people. And Dan goes through it just line by line, basically saying, look, this is a reasonable prediction, and it was correct. This is another reasonable prediction, and it's correct. Because what Powell is doing is just extrapolating from trends. He's saying, look, if things continue like this, then this will be the case. And he was right. This is why Nigel Farage should be coming out and just hammer and tongs, just smashing them on this and saying, no, Enoch Powell's predictions were all correct because they were completely foreseeable, again, language that Powell used, because numbers add up, and that's literally just where this goes. Numbers accumulate. So if you add 2 to 2, you get 4. If you add 4 to 4, you get 8. And if we continue with this logical sort of extrapolation of numbers, adding numbers to more numbers, we can see that the numbers are in fact...
Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to go, but I'll be back on tomorrow. If you guys are around at lunchtime tomorrow, I'll continue on with my stream. But I do have things that have just popped up out of the blue, so do apologise. Give me a like and subscribe. I'm going to carry on with British politics and following where this is going, but unfortunately, this is a bit of a rough political stream at the moment. I'm still trying to get my bearings and work around complicated time schedules. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys very soon.